What up, fermented folks? Welcome to Fermented Fiction. We got another week of action coming at you here. I'm here with my brother slash co-host Travis. I'm Clay Vermullum. And over here to my right, we got Jeremy and Colin. There's Colin's hand, and there's Jeremy's hand with the ring on it. Now we're gonna see a little more of them when we get to our open forum segment later on in the show. Are you looking? No rings. Is that a point of pride for you? Is that?
No.
Are you ring shaming us? The rest of us have rings.
Yeah, I know. I don't feel left out at all.
You could get a ring
I'm trying.
if you really want one.
Yeah, you could be the Sauron of the group. You could get yourself a ring.
Yeah.
Overthrow
Make my own ring.
the entire everything, and we'll make you an eye.
Harness the power.
Yeah, I mean, Sauron didn't get a ring, so maybe that's why he went and made his own ring. That's what the story's really about.
It's really about him just being done with the hose.
He was done with all of the hoes of all of the races, every single hoe in the whole.
Are you saying Sauron gets some?
No, I'm saying
think he
Sauron
didn't.
gets denied so much. Sauron
Yeah.
was a neckbeard that just went to a tower and was like, I'll just marry myself.
He literally made his own race of people who would serve him because he couldn't get laid. That's what Sauron was all about. All right, let's move on. That was our mini episode on Lord of the Rings. We're done with it now. That's the whole series. There's really nothing more to it than that. So if you haven't read it, haven't watched it, don't need to. That's what it's about. But we're moving on to a different fairy tale. This week, we're going to talk about Fairy Tale by Stephen King, which is one of King's latest novels. Is it King's latest novel, Travis?
It's King's latest novel.
His latest novel, yeah.
It's his latest novel.
King's latest novel, Fairy Tale. So we're gonna talk about that today. But first, quick life update. Travis, what's something interesting happening in your life right now?
I made sourdough bread for the first time, and by made, I mean I watched my girlfriend make it and folded it once.
Okay. And you have an official girlfriend now. That's new.
I do. That
Right
is
on.
something. Yes, there's a life update. Who won't listen to this? So.
That's okay. My wife doesn't listen either. So it is what it is.
In fact, I said, "Oh, I'm doing my podcast tonight," and her response was, "Nerd."
Good. She's not wrong.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
They can't listen until you put a ring on it.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
And sometimes even then, they won't listen. Doesn't
What's
hurt.
your life update?
It doesn't hurt. Let's see. My life update. I'm going full-time writer in February. Speaking of wives that are awesome, my wife is super awesome, and we've been talking about that a lot. She wants to support me in that endeavor, so we're gonna do it. We're gonna try and do it, make it work. You can make money as a writer, but it takes a lot of work. Pretty much takes it being a full-time job, and I'm gonna do that for the first time since COVID. And yeah, when COVID happened, I wrote a lot of stuff, got a lot of stuff out there, started to build my following, which is like the same following I have now. So I'm hoping that continues to get bigger and bigger. That's my update.
All right.
All right, let's get to it. It's time
Let's get to it.
our first segment, as always, ladies, gentlemen, anybody else, we're doing forced enrollment, which means we're going to roll a 20-sided die. High roll is going to defend Fairy Tale by Stephen King, regardless of what we actually think about it. Low roll is going to attack Fairy Tale by Stephen King, regardless of what we actually think about it. So, without further
I got my
ado,
purple one back. The purple's back.
Ayo,
So,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
getting warmed up.
Yeah.
I just watched
All right.
both Creeds back to back, so yes, I'm good.
Oh, shoot,
Oh,
dog.
man. He's
I don't even know how to mess with that. I haven't watched either Creed ever, back to back or otherwise. All right,
Okay.
shall we roll?
Already did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, what'd you get?
Show that. I'm just gonna show that. No, that wasn't it. It's that one. It's the.
Nice. All right, mine's not much better, but it's better enough.
It is better enough.
Aw, yeah. All right, victory for me. So I will be defending Fairy Tale by Stephen King. And at Jeremy's command, he's going to start our timer, and then we're going to get rocking.
All right, everybody, prepare to do some cinematic disagreeing, or literary, it's whatever. In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Stephen King, right? He's a master of horror. He's one of the masters of our time as far as literary genre, of literary creation in general. I mean, he's written so many things. He's a master of language, a master of story, and there's really no contesting that. And you can see that in this story as well. His use of dialogue, his character construction, his world building, it's all on point. It always is. And I wasn't disappointed in this story. In fact, I thought King brought a few new things to the story that I haven't seen him do a whole lot of times. For one, there was a Stephen King character we could actually root for that was above the age of 12, and I thought that was kind of cool. Charlie was a really empathetic protagonist. We could really, I feel like, get on the same story as him. He felt human, but he was very much a good guy, which is kind of rare in King characters, unless they're children, and even then sometimes. But yeah, it's pretty rare that like a adult age or like a young adult age Stephen King character is sympathetic and relatively good on the whole. Like even when Charlie talks about the bad things he did as a kid, it's like, yeah, that stuff we did as teenagers too. I did all that kind of stuff. You know, I felt very connected to Charlie as a character. Thought he was very real. Thought he was I'm not listening. I don't hear you. I thought he was very real, very, very sympathetic, and I liked him a lot. I thought he was I loved his relationship with his dad and with Mr. Bowditch, and obviously with Radar. The Boy and His Dog story is a classic. You can't hate on it too much. You know, we all can relate to that love of animals or of a pet. But more than that, I really liked his overcoming of his past with his father and the loss of his mother. I thought that was really, really awesome. Because he talked about the period where he did not get along with his dad and how he overcame that, and the dad too wasn't just like a pile of shit, you know, which I kind of expected reading it, and then he kind of overcame that part, and you kind of went through that journey with him, you know, and I thought that was pretty awesome for the dad to kind of come back and again be another sympathetic character that we could root for, which is rare in King's work that you have not one but two of those characters. And then Mr. Bowditch, that relationship between him and Charlie was really pretty enchanting, and it set up all the fairy tale stuff that happens later in the book really well, I thought. So, honestly, the early portion of the book was my favorite portion of the book. I loved all that setup, all that character work, and I thought it set us up for a successful rest of the story.
No, sorry. During your whole argument, I was doing what I was doing during the whole book. Falling asleep the whole time. So this is a 596 page book. It takes 272 of those pages for you to get to the actual fairy tale land that the book is supposed to be based on. And the rest of it, sure, you're following a pretty good character, but it's so dreadfully slowly paced. Which, here's my thing. I've always thought King had really slow pacing. Mm-hmm. But he disguises it with dread and horror. And now we've taken his pacing, which is so adequately fit to dread and horror because it builds up to this gory payoff usually. But you took that slow, dreadful beginning and you put it in a story that's not horrific. Like, it has horrific elements, but the center heart of the story is not a horror story. So it's not really building that dread. It put it in a fantasy, a fairy tale, and that pacing just did not work for me. It took me... I read fast, and it took me a long time to pile through this thing. I think I finished 2 other books while reading at the same time because I just could not get into it. I would be like sitting in my bed trying to get into it, and it was just so slow that I was falling asleep like while turning the pages. I think that's really what my biggest gripe was. Is King? Yeah, he's still like he. I can't sit here and lie and say like, oh, King's characters suck. No, like he does good with that. He builds good characters, but he paced this thing so dreadfully slow, which is normal for him in my opinion. But it builds dread normally, and in this, it did not build dread. It just kind of let you follow these characters along for way too long. And the thing that I would say too is you could say like, oh, it's to establish them. You know these characters by page 115. Like Charlie Reed was pretty easy to get to know, and he's not like the first 100 pages I got a sense of Charlie Reed, and everything after that and his character development was just repetition. Like he kept saying that thing of like, oh yeah, I was bad once. It's like, yeah, but we know you're good now. Like, we've seen you save an old man, sacrifice yourself for a dog, get over things with your father, and yes, you talk about your past, and that's going to be the whole thing on repeat, and then you're going to become the prince, and it's like, oh, maybe when he's the prince, he'll be a little bit different. Nope. It's just, oh, I have a dark side, but I'm actually a good guy. It's like, yeah, we know that, Charlie. We've known that for 450 pages. Charlie. Mr. Bowditch is a curmudgeon. Like, that's a character we all know and love. So I think, like, the development didn't need those 200... Didn't need to get you to the fairy tale land. And I don't understand. I do understand. I read the back, in the back of the book. Clearly states this is a Stephen King COVID passion project. And it reads like a Stephen King COVID passion project, like he was stuck in his house for a year with nothing else to do. And so he wrote this thing that clearly he loves and he pours his passion into. But it could have been condensed into such a shorter story that had much quicker pacing. And that's my biggest gripe, is I just think it is dreadfully boring. I don't know how anyone could read through it fast, because it does not catch you until, oh gosh, like 350 pages in is when I finally was like, okay, now we're jogging. I'm sick of walking. Thanks, Stephen, for putting the treadmill up a little bit past halfway point. Yeah.
I didn't find it that boring. I thought the beginning of the book was the best part. I mean, I really enjoyed that character building and the slow, like, Charlie getting to know Mr. Bowditch piece by piece as he helped him out around the house, and to kind of, like, slowly gain that trust to let you into this big world, because, you know, that's always kind of bugged me in stories like this, where, like, there's somebody who has this key to, like, something secret, and then they meet somebody, and then they know him for, like, a week, and they're like, come on in. I've kept this from everybody my entire life, but a good time. Like, no, that's not what you would do. Mr. Bowditch only lets Charlie into this part of his life that's completely secret, like, could be world-endingly bad if somebody ever found out about it. And the only reason he tells Charlie about it is because he actually absolutely has to. And I think it's important that Stephen spends that much time developing that relationship. I think it's that slow for a reason. It's that slow because it takes that long to deal with, like, the loss of your mother, your father being an alcoholic, and, like, Mr. Bowditch's side of things, where he's like, I know this thing that literally no one else on the planet knows, and, like, I'm gonna die knowing that, and knowing that shed is out there, and, like, if I'm gonna trust it to somebody, it has to be somebody who really, really, really deserves it, you know? And that connection through a dog is like a classic place for people to connect. I mean, if you can't connect with somebody, tell them you have a cat. See if you connect with them then. And if you don't, well, go find somebody else to hang out with, you know? And I just think that that's really important. That time he spends is
30 seconds.
Wasted time.
I don't have time. I don't have time right now to retort, because I will just say You can do all of that stuff in a much shorter book, and I've read a lot of them. And Stephen did not have to take as long as he did.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I thought it was a nice change.
5
of pace.
seconds.
Nice change of pace for Steven.
I don't think it was though.
I think it was.
Wasn't you?
Oh god. Okay, beer of the week.
Beer of the week.
Let's do this.
There.
I'm scooting back. Ooh, under my toe.
Hey,
Back.
there's other people.
Check this out.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty other all right.
Here's our beers of the week. For
People
this
who-
one.
Oh, what? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I was gonna say, people who may see me look up every once in a while on the camera, remember, I do live in a dorm. There's a lot of noise.
That's just the
Ew.
clog stompers above you.
Yeah.
Just the Dutch
Helmet.
wood shoe convention.
So this is our beer of the week by Hellbent, our friends down in Lake City, Washington.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We have had a Hellbent.
We have last time, well, maybe not last episode, but last month. I'm a big Hellbent fan. I
Hellbent
used
can
to-
sponsor our Fermented Fiction podcast if
You
they
hear
want.
that, Hellbent? This could be you. It is you. You're getting this for free, but you don't have to. You could also get it for money. Isn't that an appealing idea?
Yeah.
So Hellbent, we're bringing you Stevens Hazy IPA,
And it has a
because
dog on
it.
it.
Has a dog on it. Bow, 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 bow.
Oh, yeah,
That's
just
why.
Shake it real good.
I used to have a Hellbent sticker on my Subaru,
Oh.
and then I started working at a Catholic university and figured that probably shouldn't be in the parking lot as prominently as it was.
Yeah, maybe in relatively bad taste.
Maybe.
I still have a Hellbent sticker on
Listen.
my wallet.
I have another beer. Maybe we can blur that out if necessary.
Hey, look at that.
Yes,
This is made by Catholics.
that
Hellbent.
is made by Catholics. Hellbent.
Still in the wallet.
So, do you guys want my beer of the week?
Yeah, let's see it.
Oh,
You know I do.
I went fancy.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Ah, shoot. How
It is
fancy.
imported
Whoa!
Mexico.
Oh, shit.
Diesel will drink.
Okay, I'm in.
If it's good for
I
one
have to use my
Vincent
table to
Diesel.
open it because I forgot a bottle opener. So here comes some noise.
Yeah, college.
It's a
Heyo!
I'm gonna let the
Nice.
viewers know that we didn't hear the noise either.
Nobody heard the noise.
I mean, it's so fancy. It's foreign.
But do you have a lime?
Taste. Don't have a.
Hey, Corona's a good beer.
Yeah.
It tastes just fine.
It is. It's
Yours
it's
is-
reliable.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It'll do it.
If you want a nice summer lake beer, you can't go wrong with a good Corona Extra. But you could go a little better with a Hellbent, I think.
To quote Vin Diesel, "You can have any beer you want as long as it's a Corona." Fast and Furious? No, nobody. Okay.
Oh no.
I mean, I assumed
I'm
that
here for
because
it.
it was Vin Diesel.
Oh.
Oh, good God.
It wasn't me this
You
time.
guys wanna? I'll go grab
I got.
Okay. Just turn that piece of shit off.
Oh.
Even if it says dad?
Yeah, even if it says dad. Especially.
Oh,
You hear that, Dad?
listen.
Stop calling me when
They
I'm
listen.
busy, Dad. Do Mom and Dad listen to this? No
Dad.
way.
Yeah, Mom does.
Alright, well, Mom, tell Dad to stop calling me. Alright? I'm busy right now.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. How's your Hellbent?
I can't find your volume button on your
I'm
phone.
just gonna turn this on airplane mode.
His phone is basically dead.
That's good.
And
Okay.
it helps that he throws it.
Yeah, that's how you kill it. Eventually it'll die. I
It's
throw it as much as I can.
it's like a lullaby for the telephone.
Pain. Blunt force trauma.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Beer of the week.
Bludgeoning
Oh,
damage.
there you go.
Oh, you had to finish the previous one. I was
I
like,
did.
you didn't pour it for any of us, and you're just chugging it.
I'm just chugging it bit by bit.
Yeah, that's
Should I?
that's why he's the.
I'm the
main
show
one.
of this star.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, everybody. Give you a little more.
Oh,
Yeah, they'll
Try to make you
All right.
splash it in there.
even-ish.
it smells great.
There's a little head
Soapish.
for you, Colin.
I jugged mine.
That a boy. You're
I can
chugging
tell.
beers every time, dude. You're the chugger on this show.
Yeah,
This is why this
like a real man.
All right, there it
Just
is.
kidding.
One down.
It'll be.
Two more
Citrus, perhaps pineapple.
It could be some pineapple-y. How tart is it?
Smells great.
to go. We'd have to look on Untapped. They don't have anything on
Okay.
there.
Ooh,
That's a lot mellower.
tastes like
than
it too.
It's a
Pineapple?
lot mellower than
Yeah.
the smell would
Pineapple-y.
You like it?
believe. Yeah.
It's great. I like the other Hellbent we had was like much hoppier.
This is
Yeah.
very
This is much the hop level. What is that? The bitterness level?
the IBUs.
ABV.
IBU?
Yeah.
Or no, that's
IBU.
not- that's
it's the
not-
IBU. right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's the-
The IBU has got to be less.
Is ABV.
thing.
IBU. I don't remember what IBU stands for.
ABV and IBU, right?
Yeah, ABV is just alcohol by volume.
Deus Ex.
IBU, I believe, is International
Machina.
Bitterness Units.
Oh, really? International?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think they're international
I-
bitterness units.
Yeah, it's like
It's
how you
literally
measure
bitter.
how.
Which doesn't sound made up at
They
all.
measure how bitter it is. I know it sounds very made up, especially coming out of my mouth
Right.
with my resting. But it's, you know,
Always resting that.
I thought I was joking.
I rate beer undulators.
Yeah. They're just undulating
Yeah,
all
something like
of
that.
that. I think that's what.
Okay. So, fairy tale.
All right,
Yeah.
let's get on to what we actually think.
Yeah, what
Are we
do you
doing that?
think?
Colin's going thumbs
Oh,
down.
that's.
Big thumbs down from Colin. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts.
That's a big thumbs down there.
yeah,
If I
actually
can
do
just-
too.
If I can just go in on these lots of thoughts.
You going all in?
Yeah,
Please
he's
do.
the one who had to attack. Always starts on our reveal, and then I'll go in, and then we'll open her up.
I think Travis has to say something good about it now.
He doesn't. He has to say what he actually thinks. What do you think, Trav?
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
I did think it was dreadfully slow. I do think
Yeah.
Stephen King was writing a passion project. I think he really loves fairy tales and wanted to rework the tropes.
Mm-hmm.
But I stand by my guns on, like, the tropes just tell you everything you need to know about the character, and then he adds like 115 pages to each one of those. But like it's so hard to criticize a book like this because technically it's really not bad. It's well written, it's got good prose, the characters are good. It's just so stupidly unnecessarily long.
Yeah.
Like, Stephen King didn't do anything wrong by my, like, it's hard for me to say this book is bad because it's not bad, it was just meh. And like, I do actually think the few horror novels I've read from King, I think he does do this kind of pacing a lot, but it's better for a different genre. Because I think about like Cujo, that book takes like 75 to 90 pages to really get into like the demon dog shit. But in those 90 pages, you know it's coming, so you have this spine-tingling just sense of waiting. And Fairy Tale doesn't do that. It's like, what am I waiting for? Oh, the same fairy tale story that I've read 1,000 times? Then why am I waiting? Like, you're not gonna wow me with anything I haven't seen before. And he doesn't. I made it to the end and I was like, this is just an R-rated version of every kid's book I ever read. Like, you did nothing new. Like, that's my thoughts.
No, I agree. I actually disagree that where you said Stephen King didn't do anything wrong. He did. Too long is wrong. Too long is wrong.
Yeah.
Too slow is wrong. And he actually, I actually found like a technical writing error, and I think,
Oh, snap.
and I don't want to say this,
Shots
Stephen King's my
fired.
favorite author, but I'm firing these shots. I think he set his, and maybe he did this on I'm going to say, benefit of the doubt, he did this on purpose. He did establish that his character was writing this as a first-time writer. So maybe he did this on purpose, because all first-time writers do this, but there's literal head hopping in it. And I thought that was crazy. And I have to wonder, does Stephen King's editor even, like, does he even need an editor at this point? Or does he just, like, say, hey, I have a book, and then Penguin's like, all right,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, that's entirely possible. I guarantee Stephen King still has editors, but, like, I'm sure that's scrutinized less than other people's work. But, like, the most jarring thing to me was the mom, when he, early in the book, he describes what his mother was doing when she died, right? He talks about how she went to the gas station, she got some chicken, and then she's walking across the bridge and she gets hit by the vehicle, right? Spoiler alert, now that I've already done it. You're going to learn this early on. If you get this far, trust me, there's a long way to go. It's not going to get a lot more exciting.
No.
But he tells that from her point of view, which is a classic early writer error, because the character of Charlie wasn't. He can assume these things. He can say, I assume that. But like that, if my editor saw me write that, she'd be like, no, you gotta, this, Charlie can't know this. So that was one of my things. I agree on all the boring stuff. And honestly, like, also, this story's not in the King universe. Most of his stories are in the King universe, but in this story, Cujo is a movie, which means this story is outside the King universe, which is weird. In most of his stories, Cujo happened. And, like, when people talk about it, they're like, oh, yeah, I heard about this dog that attacked a couple in Maine or whatever. And in this movie, they say Cujo is a movie, which I thought was weird. I don't know why he took it out of his own universe, but he did. And I
even
it was intentional.
I mean, even the Dark Tower takes place in like the same universe as like Salem's Lot.
Almost all the ones I've read do.
Oh.
They talk about like, oh, this thing happened in this place, and it's from another King book, and then you can kind of look at that. In this one, it was a movie, so it didn't actually literally happen. Which I don't know. That was weird, and I'm wondering if it's a slip or if it was intentional, and if so, why? Doesn't make sense.
I made this joke to you, but. The more I read it, the more it wasn't true, because it's definitely not for kids. Like, it's still vulgar. It's still...
Yeah.
But I made the joke to you, like, when I was about halfway through, I was like, this feels like when Robert Rodriguez made Spy Kids. Like,
absolutely. I thought that was fantastic.
Like, I need something for a different audience to watch. And, like, I'm going to keep making my just rompy Dusk Till Dawn type movies, but, like, here's Spy Kids for my grandkids. Whatever.
I think it's worse than that.
It wasn't to that extent, but I do think he was writing for a different audience. And I think that audience, honestly, was like him. I think he just wrote a book for himself.
I felt like it was a trend hop, personally. Fairies are hot right now. Fairy tales are hot. Like, going into the Fae and all that kind of crap, like Sarah J. Maas. That's trendy right now. And I don't really think... And I mean, I guarantee Stephen King was heavily influenced by the Grimm fairy tales and everything. I mean, we all were. That, to me, it felt like another boomer just reminding me how great the old stories were, And I hate to be a guy using the word boomer at all, but that's kind of what it felt like, honestly. Like, hey,
guys,
when someone...
I feel like we need to go easier. Stephen King is a young, struggling writer who is just having a tough time making ends meet. And, we should just embrace the fact that he wrote a novel,
Stephen King was that guy.
Mediocre.
He was that guy when he wrote
Can Stephen King can it be okay that Stephen King wrote a mediocre novel?
Absolutely.
You're
Can
right.
it be okay?
It's not
It
like
is okay.
He definitely doesn't have an entire section of Barnes & Noble to himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a fictional show based on his entire oeuvre.
He's got one section of Barnes & Noble, and then James Patterson has the rest.
Honestly, it's almost true.
Yeah, more or less. Let's not forget about Tom Clancy. There's some others out there, but
Nicholas Sparks takes up some real estate in Barnes & Noble.
Right.
We'll not forget her.
Right.
Sarah J. Maas is catching up, not to get too off track, but I thought she had like 2 books. I went over to the young adults. She has like freaking 22 books in that universe, and they're
Hella
all
books.
just fairy smut. But anyway,
You gotta love good smut.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with smut, okay?
I don't smut shame.
Everybody likes smut of some kind or another.
We here at Fermented Fiction are not here to yuck on anybody's yums.
No.
That's right.
To read and watch movies and drink.
And then talk about it.
Unless that
But speaking of that, about that, would you be attracted to a princess that has no mouth?
Yeah,
It's a turn
I
off.
don't want to.
you know,
for me.
there's
Colin
I can't really
That's a
answer that
that's a weird one.
well.
That's a weird
is
one.
the only unmarried one of this group. I don't want to answer that question.
Fair
As
enough.
one of the several married people in the group, I don't want to answer it either.
Fair enough.
I mean, that was like the kiss that occurs is, I would argue, a pivotal moment in the story, and
Yeah.
I mean that's the first thing Hollywood's going to change clearly in the film adaptation of this.
I mean, they
Right?
also
There's no way the producer is going to be like, oh yeah, we'll do exactly what's written in the book. We'll make sure that this beautiful woman has no mouth and that they kiss at the end, and we won't magically create a mouth on her to facilitate, you know, a more broader audience appeal, right?
This is exactly though to your,
Definitely
Not
not.
that. I hope not.
to veer away from your hilarious question, which the answer to that is yes. Obviously, I would still fall in love with a beautiful princess with no mouth. Anyway, that is exactly my problem with this book. Is that didn't like it was a pivotal moment, didn't hit because I was like
Yeah.
Agreed.
done.
Yeah, and there's a heavy lean on Cthulhu, and it's like, why? Well, you're Stephen King. Like, why do you need to hang on Lovecraft? Because you don't have a sprawling universe of horrors that you've created. You need some Lovecraft in here now.
I mean, yeah. at
All of a
this point,
sudden,
Stephen King's way bigger than Lovecraft at this point.
oh yeah,
You know, and
Oh, yeah.
also less racist, which is pretty cool.
yeah, he's a good amount.
That's
I'm glad
nice.
you brought
That's
it
a
up.
nice change.
I wasn't gonna like go that way, but like he definitely threw in a little like political stuff there
Yeah.
throughout the book of like being a modern, which that was weird to me. A King book where the main character has a cell phone was strange to me because I've only read his stuff from like the 80s. Anyway, he definitely had like a little bit of political leaning in this one that I'm not used to seeing with King. And then he decides to like trophy hole Lovecraft.
Kind of weird. Kind of weird.
Where are we sitting here, King? Because
I was shocked that I did a quick search of reviews of the book, and I didn't find anyone that. I mean, I felt like there was a white knight complex going on, and some serious cultural insensitivity with colonialist vibes, and I didn't see anybody really mention that. Of course, I didn't actually drill into like Audible reviews, and I'm sure it shows up there, but. That surprised because as I went through the book, I was like, "Is this gonna?" Oh yeah.
I mean,
okay.
he grows blonde hair and blue eyes and
Yeah.
starts talking with a better vocabulary. Otherwise, the prince is exactly the same as Charlie.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Oh, but my favorite thing about this is the gritty realism, which is that Charlie. I mean, obviously, if he had a superpower, it would be like his charisma and his bravery and
Also,
stuff.
handsomeness.
Yes.
Also being blonde.
But the most important thing to remember and to spread to our children is that you can deal with your enemies and problems by shooting them in the face.
Absolutely.
With a gun.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
kill
Ideally, 2 guns. That's a great way to kill
As many
mythological
guns as you have
fairy
that
tale
time.
enemies. Boom! Right in the face.
that was honestly my favorite part of the book was the fact that guy brings gun to fairy tale land and just
guns.
kills everything.
I mean, why not, right?
That's a
I mean,
good
guns
point.
are pretty good at killing stuff. You know,
Yeah.
if a sword
just-
can kill it, a gun can kill it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, if a sword can do it, a gun.
Why
will
didn't
do
you
it
rebel
easily.
against this giant?
Yeah. No problem. See you later.
When he kills the giant in like one shot in one page, I was just like, yes, that is what would happen if you had a 45 caliber pistol
Hey,
against anything.
David had a slingshot, you know? Like,
Yeah, I especially appreciate reading about that and then thinking to myself, wow, this is kind of like David and Goliath. And then Charlie's like, you know, this is kind of like David and Goliath.
There was a lot of that. and it
like,
a
There was
bit-
so
bit
much. Every time I thought something was like, oh, this is kind of like Wizard of Oz, Charlie was like, it's a lot like in Wizard of Oz. It's like, is
But
this
no,
a Cthulhu
if
thing? And Charlie's like,
Bilbo-
yes, this is a Cthulhu thing.
Just in
If
case you were
Bilbo would have
wondering.
had a 50 cal, Bilbo had a 50 cal, Smog's dead in like 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
It wouldn't have been very Bilbo-esque, but
Did you guys audiobook?
I did.
Yes.
Okay,
It was the way to do it.
I mix. I read at home, and then when I'm driving, so I like visited Bozeman a few times while trying to freaking slog through this book.
It was a slog.
Yeah,
Did not love King's narration
Yeah.
for Mr. Bowditch.
Yeah.
It
Lame.
was not
less good.
good.
Well, and I don't know if you guys have listened to King's other books, but he's narrated a few of them, and he's just not. I mean, his voice is not an appealing voice. The only time I've enjoyed King's narration was when he read On Writing, which is his book about writing.
Oh, yeah.
Then I was like, cool, it's like Stephen King actually teaching me a class. That's cool. But when he tries to read characters, it's like, oh, you gotta, like, get out of your nose.
I didn't even like the narrator.
No,
Really.
He's a pro.
I mean, he was all right,
All right,
but
yeah.
like, I've listened to other audiobooks and much preferred other narrators.
Sure.
Maybe I like
pretty
him because I
relative.
listen on 1.3 speed. So
Actually, he is very slow,
That
and
is
I
really good
I
to
did
do.
move it up to 1.25.
Yeah.
I go 1.3 every time. Because if you go 1.5,
Whoa,
then the dialogue
whoa.
sounds like really bad. But if you do 1.3, it's pretty
Yeah. You don't want to go.
Nah.
2.5.
Yeah.
Like, nah.
Nah.
King Charlie!
Charlie!
Prince
No one's gonna get it if they
Charlie!
don't listen to the audiobook.
All right, well, if you don't get that, it's on you. Listen to the audiobook, and
Yeah,
God.
there's a tone deaf character, and that whole the Prince Charlie thing. That's
Yeah, if you've got 24 entire hours to spare, listen to the audiobook.
yeah, or don't.
Yeah.
You know,
Nah.
there's better audiobooks out there.
Listen
that's
to the
for sure.
first third of the audiobook and then just assume everything will be fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, honestly, that's how it turns out. So it is kind of. Yeah, I wasn't a fan either. At the end of the day, I actually really liked the first. I liked the beginning of the story a lot. I was telling the truth about that. As soon as they went into Fairy Tale Land, was honestly where I lost interest.
You're crazy. You're
I
a bad
liked the
man.
relationships; they were good. The story between the old man and stuff. I wish that would have been the fairy tale.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the
That
book's
should
got
have-
99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. That's for sure.
That's true. She doesn't have a mouth. Could be a problem. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, like, so.
I'm
He gets
what,
to
Travis?
Within like a chapter or two.
What if
of
that
having
horse
sex
died?
with
The dog is the
somebody.
best character.
How are they going to talk?
The horse is also a good character.
Yeah.
What were you trying to say, Jeremy?
I was saying that, like, he kisses the princess within like a chapter or two of having sex with somebody he was a POW with.
True Chains.
Yeah.
So that's. War is complicated.
It is.
Whereas,
It is.
listen, I didn't dislike a lot of technical aspects of this book, but the whole time I was just thinking, where is this going, and why am I still reading?
And then it does not go in
No.
Well,
the way you would ever
Just-
imagine.
King, like I'm beating a dead horse here, but King makes me do that with all of his books. The first 100 pages, I'm like, man, where is this going? And it always pays off.
Not
And
this
this is
time.
the first time where I've been like, I think it's going here. Oh my God, yes, I was right. I predicted it.
Gog Magog!
Well,
A
That
whole
sucks.
page of that.
Such a lame.
Never
such a
gonna
lame-
forget that.
yeah.
All you have to do is shout at the big bad,
Just gotta
and
yell
it'll
at
go
it.
away.
It'll go
Because
away.
you're
Yeah.
blonde.
I mean, now when I do morning yoga, that's what I do.
Yeah,
Good.
it'll go away. You'll yell at it.
Every morning at 8 a.m.
Gog Magog!
It's
Gog
great.
Magog!
He yells at Gog Magog
Very
and it's
sensible.
like, yeah, come back in 10 years, I'll be here. And then he leaves forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'll
Yeah.
still be here, you
Is
Nobody's getting through
These
that.
relationships are very important to me.
he's there in spirit. Yeah, and he didn't
All right.
bring nobody up with him either. Just left them all down there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the atmosphere is toxic, so you can't bring him back.
Right.
That's the claim.
More Deus Ex.
But I did want to mention one more thing, which is that throughout the whole book, I was like, I would rather just read The Dark Tower. I feel like a lot of The Dark Tower is in this book. And
See, I haven't
everything
read
this...
it.
Yeah, if anything... my argument is anything that you liked about this book is done better in The Dark Tower, which he wrote 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And started when he was 16.
I've heard the same thing.
And broke up into several books.
Yeah. And had more characters. All the characters are more interesting. Also, portals into other dimensions and doors between different realities. A gunslinger character who's actually badass.
I've also read a slightly disappointing ending, I've heard.
Yeah, super
Dark
controversial.
Tower.
Maybe the most controversial ending of any series.
Oh my.
I would venture that. Even though I didn't finish the whole series. But that's
Okay.
another... I mean, I read like 5 of them.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. He writes 5,000 words a day, and I can tell.
Yeah.
That's Stephen King's process, by the way, if you didn't know. He writes 5,000 words, and then he's done for the day. And I feel like whenever I read Stephen King novels, at least ones that have been published in the last, 20 years, it's been like, yeah, couldn't have predicted that, because he couldn't. That's just where he went that day. You know? And the editors are like, I guess we have to leave it in, because it's Stephen, you know?
Yeah, it's a thing where this book could not
He's a
have been
pantser.
published by a first-time author.
No.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
I think if it was, it would be
Couldn't
a
have been
lot more
published
criticized.
the way that it came out.
Right. I mean,
It
in
would've been
general,
edited
most of it is
heavily.
really well written, so I think if this was a debut author, it's pretty well written for a debut author, definitely.
Yeah. But it would have been like an
It would have been chopped
average
down.
fantasy story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have toned down the heartwarming coming of age story in the beginning, toned up the Hunger Games bit, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what they would have
Sold.
done. They would have Hollywooded it. Yeah.
And that's an advantage
Hollywood
of
its balls
the Dark Tower series is that in this book it has pretty good characters and really good villains too, and so does the Dark Tower. But the kinds of characters that he writes in that are this novel is very safe with those characters. Meanwhile, in the Dark Tower, one of the characters that he wrote quite young. In that series includes a disabled black woman from the 1920s with multiple personality disorder. So try and write that character
Go on, do it.
without decades of writing experience behind you as a bestseller.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I feel like...
come on, King, step it up.
Yeah, where you
Yeah,
at?
step it up.
Where you doing?
Yeah.
In summation, fairy tale's boring. Read Dark Tower instead. That's what I'm hearing.
I would even go
Definitely.
so far as to say if you want to read fantasy, just, read fantasy
Read an
authors.
actual
Yeah,
fantasy
you
book.
could
And if you
probably.
want to read horror, Stephen King does it better than most people. He really does. Depending on the kind of horror you like. If you like existential horror, read Stephen Graham Jones. Period. But it's... Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read The Dark Tower or anything, but there's just so much fantasy out there.
man.
I feel like I can go... When I read
there-
Stephen King, I'm expecting... I want to read horror. And I'm not really a don't genre hop kind of person, but I don't know, after reading this, I'm like, yeah, maybe don't genre hop, Stephen. That's kind of how it feels.
Maybe Mumford and Son should have stuck with folk,
At least they're not rapping.
Why'd you buy electric instruments, guys?
Yeah, seriously.
Yep.
Nobody really wants to listen to an electric banjo, okay?
Yeah, that's...
And this is basically the
That's not what
Stephen King equivalent of an electric banjo.
Mumford and Son's fourth album. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whack.
As a person for whom this is their first Stephen King book, it's a weird place
No.
to start.
This is your first Stephen
No.
King book?
Yes.
That was an accident.
I am what you would call uncultured swine.
You are. Wow.
It's.
You gotta read. There's a lot of
Pet
stuff.
Cemetery. Pet.
Do you mean to tell me there's a
Cemetery.
lot of Stephen King out there?
There's a lot of good Stephen King out there. That
Shenanigans.
it all happens early.
I think Pet Cemetery, not to drag this on longer, but in my opinion, the best King starter novel is Pet Cemetery because it's short, it is incredibly well done, and it is freaking terrifying.
Well, that ship has set sail. Okay.
Yeah, you already read
Look,
it.
Lawnmower
I've
Man.
already started.
There's Lawnmower Man. There's The Shining.
The Shining's one of the best horror books.
Everybody's seen the movies based on books.
Yeah.
Kind
But
of.
the Shining's denser. The Shining Pet Cemetery is that entry point. It's like that gateway drug.
The gateway
Sure.
drug, baby.
And The Shining is based on the book in the way that The Hitchhiker's Guide is based on the book. Like, the
No, it's
names...
not.
Yes,
We're
it
not
is.
gonna have that. We're not gonna have that.
Yes, it is. The Shining is completely different. The movie and the book.
Kubrick
completely
did
different.
way better though.
Not true.
Than they did with the Hitchhikers.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that.
That's
I'm
what I'm
saying
saying.
they're that different, though.
They are very different.
Like, that they're not even the same story.
Still good.
They have different protagonists. They're not even the same
for
story.
sure.
The kid is the protagonist in the book. Period. It's a totally different story.
You hire a child actor and tell me you wouldn't.
Nowadays, you could do it. Nowadays, you could do
probably
it.
could.
Child actors are better, and that's just like true.
Yeah.
They
Well,
just
it
are
too, right?
better.
Hmm?
It sucks. It's a. It sucks. It's gross. It's not really that good. It's scary because of clowns, and like I don't really get that anyway. Like. Clowns are only scary because, like, they're at carnivals, like, talking to children all the time. Like, yeah, that's a little creepy. Like, let's not.
Well, I mean, there was that whole phenomenon of clowns like literally killing people. Like,
Yeah, but clowns have been scary, like, way before that. People being afraid of clowns. The reason that clown thing happened is because people were already scared of
always
clowns.
afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
And, like,
And that's just because they're maybe child molesters.
yeah,
Mm.
we were, like,
Listen,
allowed to hang out with children.
Totally agree. I also,
Let's
I think
not-
we've gone off the rails.
That's true, and let's say this, too. Let's say
I
this.
don't know if you're.
Let's not say... We don't... Do you know any clowns? I don't know.
Not personally.
I don't know a lot of
Back in
clowns.
the day,
I know
no.
that there's an entire college of clown acting, and I'm sure there's like a lot of respect to be had for the clown community.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am. I'm
after
reeling it
your
in. I'm reeling it in
rage
because I don't think we should
against
generalize and say that all clowns are terrible.
Yeah, we
people. I think
shouldn't
that there's good
ostracize-
clowns
a
out
lot
there.
of metaphorical clowns, like that guy's a clown.
No, I'm talking about literal clowns, and I think there's good clowns out
Yeah,
there.
you
And
know,
I think we should reel it back.
If you're a clown, come on the show
Yes, please.
Yeah, tell us about being a clown.
Yeah,
Come
we
on
don't
over
want
here.
to alienate
and tell us your opinion of it.
And
our
why are you a fan of the
very
Jacksonville Jaguars?
multicultural
They're such a bad franchise.
clown demographic
Wow.
that clearly loves this show?
There's got to be one clown.
We don't want.
If you
I
go
don't
to
wanna
International
between
Clown
clowns.
College, ICC, please sponsor our show.
I would
If you were a
like to record
professor
the show,
at that
but I
college.
don't want
An international clown professor.
the international clown.
Travis is
Clown
just-
professors.
Carpet burning this whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we respect
Fairy tale.
we respect clowns.
Fairy
That's
tale.
all we're saying.
Fairy tale, 5 stars. There's nothing wrong with it. We all love it.
Yeah, if you like
Yeah.
coming of age,
Sponsored by
and
Stephen
then,
Yeah, this show
Wizard of
brought
Oz,
Stephen
and
King.
then Hunger
And
Games, and then, I don't know, Cthulhu, but also Army of Darkness, you will love Fairy Tale.
I don't
Maybe.
think we will.
As long as you
Sure.
also like Gran Torino first.
Yes, if you like Grand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a 2-star for me. Worst Stephen King book I've ever read.
Oh,
Me too, but also the best. So,
2.5
and the,
2.5 out there. That's what I'm going.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. That's Fairy Tale. Not such a fairy tale ending, but we're gonna move on.
tune in for more fairy tales on this podcast.
They'll be back. More fairy tales, inspired stories at
Man,
the
that's
very
gonna be
least.
so
We're gonna talk about lots of stuff on
We
here.
read another that I think is an actually good fairy tale.
we'll find out which one that is
Yeah.
on the next episode. See you later.